So you've left the toxic relationship. You've gotten divorced. You've left the relationship. You have found the courage some way to walk away from something that was really destructive, whether that be like sort of a toxic dismissive avoidance cycle or neglectful or whatever it is. It wasn't good for you and you decided to leave. But now what? Because the reality is that healing after something like this is not just a simple process. It does require some specific moves. And studies say that divorce is actually the most difficult thing that anyone will ever go through in their life. And there's a reason for this. So I want to give you some very specific steps and what I would call magic combination of what's needed to actually get you where you want to be. Because we have attachment bonds in these relationships, and our attachment bonds are really, really important, not just to babies because they're helpless, but also as adults. So we are having this ripped apart inner feeling of losing this person that we relied on, even if they were toxic. We have a feeling of vulnerability in the world now, and we don't feel safe. And so there's actually two ways that you want to combine these two modalities that help you get to the point where you need to be so you don't get stuck in this perpetual loop of making the same mistakes and having the same inner narrative, which is a really big deal. And if you're new here, I'm Ketra Thompson. I'm a certified master hypnotist and a relationship and attachment style coach. So what I do with my clients is I help them go back on a subconscious level to reframe the things that are driving their unwanted behavior patterns on a subconscious level and allow them to step into the life they want, into the love they want, with some other modalities that are very, very important to accompany that process, which I'm going to talk a bit about today. So you have a really good understanding about why this is such a struggle. So first, very quickly, let's just look at what normally happens. We leave a toxic relationship, we get that divorce, and some improvements do happen. We start to feel our nervous system be a little more calm. Maybe we are, having the glow up thing that happens where we're looking better and we're feeling better. But the problem is, once we step back into the relationship world again, all of these things can be re-triggered to the surface because the thing that was creating the pain and discomfort has been removed. Great. But we haven't removed the underlying issues. And so what people do is they distract themselves. They scroll on social media. They get busy with their friends. They get busy at work. They suppress their feelings. They try to look away from what's happening underneath the surface. And that's a very, very temporary fix. And I know this because I made this mistake of moving on quickly after my divorce and not really understanding what was going on under the surface. So if you have watched me before, you might have heard this, but it's worth repeating that the subconscious mind controls over 95% of everything you think, feel, and do. So it's calling the shots. It's running the show. So what most of us don't realize is that subconscious mind is primarily programmed from birth to age 7. And then after age 7, it's influenced again with complex trauma through the repetitive behaviors of the people that are closest to us in our life. So this is caregivers, parents, spouses, and that further impacts the way we see ourselves in the world. And so the programming that's running the show was not programmed by you. It was programmed by your very naive interpretation of the things that were said and done in front of you or to you, and then the repetitive behaviors of our caregivers and our partners. And so it is just running on a loop in the background. And because it's so strong, because it's actually controlling that much of how we think, feel, and do, what happens is we learn something cognitively in our conscious mind. We read a book, we read that self-help book, we talk to the therapist, and maybe we get some insights and we realize, oh, this is why that happened. This is, what's going on. And I need to show up differently. I need to be different. And the problem is, then we show up into our next relationship and we think all these things. We want to do all these things. We have intentions to, but our willpower is not strong enough to override the subconscious programming. And it triggers all of our internal fears again, and we fall right back into the old pattern of shutting down our own needs, of not tuning in to what we know we need to take care of ourselves. We become oblivious to it. And we think, well, I'm just happy spending time with this person. I don't care. I don't have a preference. I don't have an opinion. And slowly we shrink back into a role that was pre-programmed because now we are engaging with someone whose opinion matters to us. It doesn't really bother us when we're engaging with someone who doesn't matter to us, that we couldn't give a crap about. We're fine with saying, hey, sorry, like this doesn't work for me or whatever. But when we care about someone and we think they're a great catch, or we think they're going to be something special, we start putting aside not only our own needs and desires, but we literally aren't even noticing them anymore. It's not that we don't even see that they're there. We think everything's fine because we aren't even noticing what's going on under the surface. And that's old programming. And then we've got the programming that our nervous system is holding. So it's very important because there's a lot of maybe teachings about how to use boundaries, how to communicate, how to show up. And you're going to run into roadblocks as you try to implement those things if you haven't dealt with these subconscious programs and the nervous system. And it's because they override the system. And so we can learn all the stuff and we can't put it into practice necessarily. And we wonder why we're still exhausted, why we're still anxious, why we're still overthinking whether or not we should or shouldn't say something to someone else. We're afraid of making some kind of repeat mistake. And so the two things that have to be addressed is the subconscious programming and the nervous system. So a lot of processes will talk about the nervous system. Great, love it. We calm our nervous system, we get our body relaxed, we get into more clarity. But then when someone else's opinion of us matters to us, all that goes out the window, and the subconscious mind takes over with its old programming saying, oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, you need to rethink that. You need to be hyper aware. Maybe don't say that. You'll be too much. And all the old stuff comes up. And so all the work you've done on your nervous system was probably great for you, but doesn't necessarily have the power that you need to show up differently. Now, if we just look at the subconscious, if we do the subconscious work, we reframe it, which the modality I do in my hypnotherapy practice is very much a root cause system. So we get to the heart of what's going on. We don't just layer on new things without getting to the heart of the issue. So that's important to be using this modality. But at the same time, we don't want to just address the subconscious issues, because if we aren't calming the nervous system at the same time, then what's stored in our body comes back up and can trigger that. And so it's really important that we do both, which I do with all of my clients. I teach my clients how to calm the nervous system, how to regulate the nervous system, how to tune into what's going on, and reframe the subconscious programming so that you can think clearly, so that you don't put yourself in a position unknowingly of shutting down your own needs and your own feelings. And here's what happens. Like, we're born with this incredible guidance system. So we are born knowing what our feelings and emotions are telling us. So, if you're a baby and you have a wet diaper, you know you want a diaper change. And so you cry. But let's say someone just puts a bottle in your mouth instead. And you're probably going to shake your head because you don't really want that bottle. You know you need a diaper change even though you don't have language for it. We had this clear communication system where our feelings and emotions were telling us what we needed, and then we asked for those needs in real time. But over time, something shatters. We are told our feelings don't matter. We are dismissed about our feelings. We have people say, get over it. It's no big deal. It's nothing to cry about. Stop it. Girls don't do this. Boys don't do that. Whatever the programming is, all that's going into the programming of our subconscious mind. And it's causing us to lose trust in our original guidance system. And because of that, we don't know what to do with the feelings and emotions, but they don't go away. The feelings and emotions keep coming. And then we don't know what to do with them. And we're flooded and we're overwhelmed and we don't know how to process them. And we certainly don't know how to express our needs, how to meet our own needs in real time. So we distract. We drink, we smoke, we game, we hyper focus on relationships, we overfunction and overwork and become workaholics, we create busyness, we create disassociation, all these things because we don't know what to do with the messages that our feelings are sending us. And in the process, we are burning out our system. We aren't meeting our needs in real time. We aren't able to tune into what's going on enough to meet our needs. And there gets this buildup underneath the surface of unmet needs. And it really creates burnout, collapse, emotional overwhelm, coping mechanisms, relationship dynamics that become codependent because we aren't meeting our needs in real time. So we can't just address this subconsciously. We can't just address this with your nervous system. We've got to combine the two so that we can receive the messages clearly, we can interpret our feelings and our emotions clearly, and we can start acting on them in real time with real communication. So, for example, I work with married couples because I have a couples program, and a lot of them will be trying to implement the communication tools that the therapist has taught them. They're great tools. They're good communication skills. But every time they try to communicate, one of them gets emotionally triggered or both of them, which sends them into fight or flight, which pushes the blood out of the frontal lobe of their brain into their large muscle groups. Now they've got brain fog. They're still talking, maybe even arguing, but they aren't being productive because they aren't in their right frame of mind. They're triggered. They're emotionally triggered. So if we don't deal with what's causing the emotional trigger underneath the surface, we're going to still be reactive. We're going to say the underhanded thing. We're going to be passive aggressive. We're going to say that rude, cutting comment and then play it off like, oh, you can't take a joke. I was just joking. Or, you're so sensitive or whatever, because it'll come seething out of us. And we won't actually accomplish the communication we set out to accomplish. Communication that has curiosity and openness and a willingness to accept influence and all of that. We're not ever going to get there. And it's because we will have not addressed the subconscious root. And so if you're recovering from a toxic relationship, you've got to realize that not only did your upbringing set you up to accept that relationship, to think that it was fine, to think that it was okay, to be susceptible to buying the lies that were sold to you because of your programming. All the little beliefs about I'm not enough, this is as good as it gets, this is just the way it is, whatever they were, set you up to be in that relationship. And then the toxicity of that relationship beat you down. The repetition of the negative comments, the repetition of the withholding of affection, the repetition of the manipulation, of the criticism, whatever it is, The sheer repetition of that becomes complex trauma as it eventually breaks through into your subconscious mind, and it affects the way you see yourself and the world around you. So even if you leave the relationship and all of a sudden you feel empowered, I did it, I got out of it, I can do anything. And there's this almost bold arrogance about you. If it isn't backed up with actual subconscious healing work and the healing work in your nervous system, then you're going to be in trouble when you try to make deep connections again. Whether those connections are friendship or they are dating, you're going to put aside what you have learned to some degree because there's going to be too much fear under the surface that says if you don't behave, you're going to lose this person. And even if you end up, let's say, remarried to someone who's really great, and I have heard this several times, you'll still overfunction. You'll think, oh, they did more around the house. I can't rest today, even though it's the weekend and I've worked hard all week. I have to do my share. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be a team player, but you'll think subconsciously, I have to do this or I will lose love. And it feels like I have to earn my rest. I have to earn my ease. I have to earn my right to stay in this relationship with actions and behaviors because that's what the old programming tells me. And you'll find yourself stuck in another loop. So you can take all the tips and tricks that a lot of coaches share about dating, about divorce recovery, about all of this stuff. But if you don't have these two pieces in place, if they aren't working hand in hand together to regulate your nervous system and reframe the deep subconscious programming, you're going to have a battle. And you're either going to avoid relationships entirely because they're too scary and you can't trust yourself to make the right decision, and you can't trust yourself to hold a boundary, and you can't trust yourself to say no once you really like someone, or you're going to dive in, you're going to distract with relationships, you're going to lose yourself in them, and before you know it, you're going to be right back where you were. Even if the dynamic is a little different, you will have betrayed yourself. And I know this because I've done this. And I know the healing path because I've done it. And I had a lot of things I tried along the way that did not get me where I wanted to go. But what I realized and what I've put into all the programs I have with my clients is that these two things plus this third aspect is very important. Subconscious reprogramming, calming, regulating the nervous system on a regular basis, plus implementation. And the implementation part is going into life with a new game plan. Once these things are regulated, once you feel good, once you aren't being triggered into old belief patterns, now you have a plan for how to show up differently and a custom plan that's just for you. Things that you can take with you into the dating realm, into even the work realm, into life in general, so that you show up in a way that does not betray you and does not dysregulate your nervous system and does not throw you into fear-based thinking where you overfunction, over-accommodate ever again. And so I put that into every single one of my programs. So the custom, like VIP one-on-one work that I do in my 12-week program has all of that, but also my newest and really most comprehensive 8-week program for women recovering from divorce, toxic relationships, recovering from narcissistic abuse, betrayal trauma. It's all in there as well, because these things coupled together matter if you actually want to get to where you're going. So you can learn more about that at the links in the description below. You can check that out. You can set up a completely complimentary consultation call with me so you and I can chat. I can get to the heart of what's going on with you. I can help you at the very least get some clarity and create a roadmap that would be most beneficial for you. So you can set that up there. And whatever you choose, whatever modality you choose for your own healing journey, I would really urge you to not just keep consuming information. You're watching this video. I love that. You're learning. Maybe you read so many books. I personally, I lost count. I've read over 1,000 books. I love knowledge. I love to learn about things, but I learned that if we don't deal with the subconscious and the nervous system and learn how to implement that knowledge without those reactive behaviors, that knowledge isn't any good. It doesn't actually benefit you. So don't just keep consuming knowledge. Choose a path of healing that gives you some strategic method that is going to plot the course for you, take you on a specific roadmap so that you can reach your goals, so that you can feel better, so you don't feel constantly exhausted, second guessing yourself, doubting yourself, full of anxiety, questioning what you should and shouldn't do. That's no way to live. And if you're ready for that, I am ready to work with you. So check out all of that below. And as always, if this resonates with you, I really appreciate it if you would click like and subscribe so you can be notified every time I post a new video. And until next time, I hope you curate a life by your own design.